You know, guys, one of the things that I talk about quite often regarding the current Gamergate 2.0 situation that we find ourselves in is the fact that one of the biggest landscapes by far that is different in this version versus the first one is the fact that Twitter is now a much more open space, right? I say this all the time on my live streams. If you guys are watching this video, you're probably thinking to yourselves, yup, you've said this before, and I have, you know, and I will always stand by that. When it comes to Twitter, aka X, whatever the hell you want to call it, it is a much freer and open space. Does it have problems? Absolutely. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But it still opens up a much broader discussion than what was happening prior. Now, we have the person that every single leftist loves to hate chiming in on the Black Yasuke situation, and that's none other than Elon Musk.
Go yourself. Is that clear?
So we have an article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, Elon Musk weighs in on Assassin's Creed Shadows featuring a potentially gay black samurai as the main character and says DEI kills art. Now, honestly, I'm going to agree with that probably 99% of the time. I've seen very small examples of what happens when you have a DEI-focused company that happens to make a good product, right? But that is few and far between. So few and far between that honestly most people would be okay putting their vote at 100%. But I'm going to leave it at a 99% just to account for the one-offs that tend to happen every now and then, because it does, you know, it does happen every now and then. But we do have an example here of someone like Elon Musk, right, who honestly, for all intents and purposes, really should not be in this discussion. It's very rare that you would see someone of his caliber being talking about this stuff, but it's just going to be another example of a leftist melting down over some nonsense like this. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Now, I've talked about Black Yasuke as much as I possibly can. There really isn't much more to put about this, right? No matter what Ubisoft is going to go through with it, they're not going to change anything. They're not going to give Japanese people proper representation. They're going to pick the one side character that they found in history that happened to be black, and they're going to make an entire mainstay game out of him because that's what they want to do. It is what it is, man. And at the end of the day, you either choose to support it or you choose not to, and we move on from there. But it says Elon Musk weighed in on the possibility of Ubisoft's upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows game featuring a gay black samurai. Musk weighed in while responding to X user Ian Miles Chong. Chong wrote, should Ubisoft delay Assassin's Creed Shadows in response to widespread backlash over the game's injection of DEI? The game is so thoroughly woke that it features a black gay protagonist depicted as a real historical samurai in Japan. Offensive beyond belief. No one asked for this. Musk replied, DEI kills art. Now, in terms of whether or not they should delay it, I mean, again, I don't really see what are they going to do. Like, they would have to redesign the entire game at that point. They would have to remake an entire new character. I don't really see what they would do to change it. And honestly, if they did change it, that's going to open up a whole nother can of worms that Ubisoft does not want to deal with, okay? Ubisoft is an ultra woke company. The last thing that they want to do is to say, oh, we messed up by putting a black guy in it. Let's put a standard Japanese male as a samurai in this game. Yeah, let's change it midway through after all the press about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Let's change it. Yeah, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be an absolute freaking bloodbath. That'll probably be the biggest meltdown we've ever seen in history, aside from Trump winning presidency, right? So I don't really think that's going to be a good idea from a business standpoint. I think at this point they need to just follow through, which is what they're going to do. And whatever sales they garner from it, they garner from it. That's basically it. If they get less sales or they get more sales, that, you know, time will tell whether or not that happens. But if they get less sales, they're just going to live with it. You think they're going to ever admit that they were wrong? That they're ever going to admit that it was probably not a great idea to put Yasuke as the mainstay character? Of course not. They're going to continue on and keep pushing, and they're going to double down, triple down, quadruple down, doing the same exact thing that they've been doing for a while. And then it says Ubisoft revealed that in the upcoming games, players will have the option to play either Yasuke or a fictional character named Naoe. In a blog post, the company describes Yasuke as a real-life samurai and explained the decision to make the historical figure playable. The company wrote the decision to include a playable, real-life historical figure of this era in Assassin's Creed Shadows was twofold. Ubisoft Quebec wanted to include a samurai, and Yasuke's story was open-ended enough to allow for creativity. There are still plenty of questions and speculation surrounding him. The fascinating facts, though, were undisputable. Of African origin, he arrived in Japan enslaved enslaved by the Portuguese. He impressed with size, strength, and wit. He served under the Japanese daimyo Oda Nobunaga. So again, even Ubisoft admits that the story of Yasuke is essentially so open-ended that they could just make up whatever the hell they want at this point. And that's honestly what people are doing with Yasuke and have been doing with Yasuke for years, right? Yasuke has been made up in a lot of different forms of media, sometimes even Japanese media, right? They show him as a samurai because you know what Yasuke is? Yasuke is the equivalent of what you would call a folklore character at this point, right? Like, he is based off of a real person. The portrayal, anyway, is based off of a real person. That's Yasuke. But honestly, what he's portrayed as is probably nowhere near what he was in real life, just based off the information that we know, which is not a lot of information. But still, based off what we know, he is nowhere near the caliber as what they showcase in different forms of media now, both West and East. But at the point in time, Yasuke, the name, has taken on an entirely different character, an entirely different meaning all on his own, aside from his real history. And nobody would have a problem with that if Ubisoft weren't trying to tout this as stunning and brave, because they chose to showcase a real-life historical figure samurai, which again, how can you call it a real life samurai when he was never proven to be such? And then on top of that, you're going to say, oh, historical accuracy, that's why we chose a black guy. You mean to tell me you chose the one black guy over the hundreds of thousands of Japanese people you could have picked? Come on, bro. We know exactly what you're doing. You're gaslighting people and trying to pretend as if you're not doing what you're doing. We know, okay? We get it. You need to push this stuff. You need to push DEI, right? But I don't see you putting a Japanese samurai or a Japanese assassin in Assassin's Creed Africa, right? Or Sub-Saharan Africa. I don't see you doing that, right? You didn't put a Japanese assassin in Assassin's Creed Egypt, right? Or Origins. You didn't do that, right? So of course not. You're not going to do that in Assassin's Creed Africa too, when you eventually make one in the Sub-Saharan or whatever the case may be. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that they are full of crap, and they chose the one loophole that was going to allow them to do this without any sort of backlash that can affect them like it normally does, because they could just claim historical accuracy. Then it says Yasuke's status as samurai is disputed. The way the Bushido website notes that there is also no record of Yasuke receiving martial arts training or the use of the Japanese sword, either when in service of Nobunaga or the years prior. The truth is that his time with Nobunaga was limited, as they first met in 1581 and Oda Nobunaga was dead a year later. This is hardly enough time for Yasuke to be trained to be the great warrior all the Wakanda dreamers want him to be. I love it. And you know what? That's absolute facts too. And that's the most beautiful thing to me, right? So people will really try to gaslight you and tell you that Yasuke 100% was a samurai, was 100% was a warrior, was 100% accepted. And you know what's funny? It's like the guy was there in Japan for 15 months, right? You mean to tell me that in 15 months, this man attained samurai status and was a master of the katana in 15 months? I didn't believe it when Tom Cruise did it, and I'm damn sure not going to believe it when Yasuke did it, if you catch my drift. You know what I mean? Because you're going to have people like, oh, well, you like The Last Samurai. First off, The Last Samurai was about Tom Cruise literally witnessing the death of the last samurai. He himself is not the last samurai. A lot of people who didn't watch the movie don't understand that. And then number two, I didn't believe or buy when he was trained to be a master swordsman within just a few months time or a year time, however long I think it was a year, however long he was there. And I'm not going to buy it when Yasuke does it either. So honestly, like I said, Yasuke is a folklore character. And the fact that Elon Musk is chiming in on this is great, because Elon Musk chiming in on it just goes to show how open this platform actually is now. And when people say, oh, the pendulum is finally swinging the other way, yeah, maybe it is, but I don't necessarily believe it's the pendulum swinging the other way. I think what it is that Twitter was so censored and suppressed in the past that now that it's open, we're finally seeing what happens when people can have open and free discourse. And it looks like the pendulum swinging the other way, but in all actuality, the pendulum has been near the middle the entire time. It's just the media would try to have you convinced otherwise. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.